Hello everyone, this is Nathaniel. Well, who else could it be, right? You click on my channel, like who do you expect to be there? Like, unless I start posting a shaman's video, it's always gonna be me talking, right? But anyway, I wanted to talk about well, about Lorne Armstrong. Um, Lots of things going on in my life right now. You know, the kind of big decisions that you have to take, like for a long time. You know, you're at a nook in your life. You have to make some big decisions, and that's what I spent the most time doing these days. And I still think a lot about Lorne, but my feelings are always evolving about Lorne. I mean, Lorne has really been a journey for me. And it still is a journey for me. I mean, my feelings for him always change every day. The more I study the ethnography and watch the new material, the new videos on Lorne and the new haven't, stuff is still going on about Lorne. It's not like he stopped being an idiot. He keeps suing people. I think he can still try to sue NBC at the Supreme Court, maybe. That's perhaps the only stuff he has left. But he's still appealing to not be a sex offender, because he is not one, let's face it. Lorne is an innocent victim, so... But anyway, my feelings on him are always evolving. And I hate to say it, but these recent days, I've really started to hate him. And I really hate him more and more and more and more. I still think the whole event is hilarious. But the more I study Lorne, the more I study what he did and who he is, the more I fucking hate him. I really despise him. And I don't think I've ever hated anybody as much as I started to hate Lorne. And it's sad to say, because Lorne didn't do anything to me specifically. It's not like, I've been wronged by many people in my life. Many, 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 many people. And I hate Lorne more than I hate those people. I don't know why. It's not normal. And it's not healthy, Lorne, he's far away from me. He didn't do anything to me. And that's something that I spent a lot of time wondering about. Why do I hate him so much? And that's a good question we can ask to you, unless you like him. I still love him. Actually, I love him less than I hate him now. I used to love him. I used to only love him. When I started studying Lorne, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really, really funny. And I was like, no, you're a cool guy, Lorne. But today, I'm fucking pissed off at him. I hate this guy. Like, I don't know why. But recently, I've started to hate him with every fiber of my being. And I know it's going to change. Eventually, I'm going to fall in love with him again. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life hating him. That's not a good life, first of all. And second of all, some people say it, but he's not the worst person he's not the worst guy. There are plenty of people, I hate to say it, but there are plenty of pedos that actually have victims that we know of. Lorne might have some victim. I'm pretty sure that he did molest some kids at some point. But there are some pedos that are way worse than Lorne. Or are there? Are there any pedophiles worse than Lorne? That's a question I spent many, many weeks and months wondering about. And that might be why I've started to hate Lorne so much. I really hated this guy so much. He is the perfectly balanced combination of everything evil. I'm gonna say it that way. And I've said it before that there's nothing even remotely good in Lorne, except maybe a few atoms in the middle of him. But the more I study him, the more I read the ethnography and watch the video and think and read the lawsuit, I realize that Lorne might be the worst pedophile, the worst human being on earth. Like, you're gonna say no, there are some pedophiles that do much worse. And we really bring the topic of opportunity. When you study evil, you cannot just look at the action that someone did. You have to look at the means they use, the motive, and the opportunity. It's like in criminal court, there's 4 elements of a crime: mean, motive, opportunity, and alibi. It's not really used anymore. We don't really use that in the modern interrogation technique and the investigation techniques, but it's still the theory, right? If you have, let's say you're the president of a country, obviously you have more opportunities and more means The both are very similar but different. If you are the president of a country, you have a lot more means to cause evil because you have an army, you have a lot of people following you. Lorne is not a president. He doesn't have an army. Well, he does have the Church of God, but that's hardly an army, you know. And Lorne doesn't have the opportunity to create evil. He doesn't have many. Like, for example, if you're the president, you have many, many, many opportunities to do evil. Like, you're powerful, so you can go and abuse kids all you want. You're always going to be protected. Like the court system is going to protect you. You know, it's like the Walmart girl, like the heiress to Sam Walton, and she got drunk and she killed someone and she got away with like nothing. She has many more. That would be means actually, but if we look at opportunity, Lorne doesn't have money, for example, to travel to Thailand and abuse kids there. That's something a lot of pedos do, by the way. And they catch a few of them, and I'm pretty happy about it. But sexual tourism, and not just for boys. Many women, like they're like 40s, 50s, and they go like to the Philippines and they abuse young boys. But in order to do that, you need money, and Lorne cannot afford that. If he could, he would. Let's face it. If Lorne had money, he would probably do sexual tourism. Or then again, maybe not. Lorne is more excited by the drama aspect of sex, like a bit like woman. I don't mean that women are bad. No, I just mean that's something I realized as I grew up. We all have things that excites us sexually differently, and men are gonna say like, yeah, I'm excited by vagina and boobs and all that. Yes, but there's more to it. Like men can be excited by. For example, I'm going very quickly, but strip teasing, or they can be excited by role play or and all that. But more I grew up, the more I realized that women are very excited by the drama that surrounds sex. And not the drama in a bad way, but like, I'm going to use another word because drama has a negative connotation, but women are sexually excited by the storyline behind the sex. Like the Harlequin novels, you know, the novels like Harlequin, like Harlequin, I don't know, I think it's Harlequin, like the novels, the romance, that's the good word actually. The romance, but the romance leading to sex. That's very important. Not just the romance like... they're not just excited by the romance like... I don't know, courting or stuff like that. They're excited by, for example... that's something I experienced actually, but spontaneous sex. Like they go to a bar, they meet a random guy, they have sex with him. That's something that women are excited about. They're less excited. They still are excited by Mr. Penis. I'm gonna say it that way, but not really. Like not at first, at least. And it's more like about the setup. Like we go to a nice restaurant, we go like to cinema, and we have a massage, and then we have sex. That's something that excites women, and men are not really about that. Like, oh, I couldn't care less about the restaurant, you know. And I say women, but not all women. But you know, some women, everyone's different. But the majority of women, the setup is very important. Like the candles, and if you put some rose petals, and if you sing them a song. And Lorne kind of has the same sort of sexual stimulation. He's excited not just by the sight of Miss Vagina, but more like the setup. Like, and Lorne has a developed fantasies. Like his fantasies are very developed. It's basically I'm the uncle, and that's really what it is. That's really exactly what it is. I don't know if it's a learned fantasies or just something that he erotized when he was growing up. And by the way, did you know I also studied sexology? So anyway, so Lorne is really excited by the phenomenon of a young girl reaching puberty. That's exactly what he is. He's excited by the transformation of a child, like a little girl that doesn't really give a damn about sex. And that's something that's important to understand. Before puberty, kids do not have sexual attraction. Actually, they do at a very young age, like 1 or 2 years old, but then it goes away. You won't see a normal 8 or 9 years old, unless there's very early puberty, but you won't see the normal pre-teenager showing any interest or even curiosity towards sex. Well, there will be a curiosity, but it's more like a discovery curiosity. Like I'm curious to discover the cosmos, you know, like oh, there's a star, I want to see the star, what it looks like. That's the kind of curiosity that little kids feel towards sex. They do not feel sexual attraction, except in rare cases. And then when there's a very young sexualization of kids, that's typically sexually abused kids. It's a mechanism, overcompensation. Don't really want to go into that. But basically, Lorne is attracted by a little girl that shows no attraction at all towards sex, like no interest, no sexual envy. And then she goes to have sex and want it. And that's really what excites Lorne. It's a weird, bizarre form of pedophilia. I'm not going to go into pedophilia too much. I think Lorne is a pedophile. I mean, he's definitely a pedophile. But I can see the argument for saying that he's an ebephobia, whatever, ebedophile, whatever. But basically attracted to post-pubescent children, like Jared Fogley. Like, that guy is definitely an ephebophile, which is not okay, by the way. I'm not saying it's okay. It's a crime. It should be. But there's an argument that could be made for Lorne being an ephebophile. But really, if you want to be really accurate in our study of him, or analysis of him, he's really between the two. He is both at the same time. He doesn't want to date a kid. I'm sorry to say it, but he doesn't want to date a kid that is like 6 or 7. He's not excited by that at all. And he doesn't want a kid that is like 16, 17. Not at all. He wants exactly in the middle. I would say 11, 12 would be probably perfect for Lorne. And he's excited by the sexual development of a kid. And that's a pretty weird fantasy. So to conclude that small segment of sexology, that's why Lorne would not really be excited by going for sexual tourism in all those weird countries. People are starving, so they sell out their kids, and it fucking sucks. I wish the world was a bit more fair, but Lorne is not really the kind of guy that is excited like by that. I'm not saying that what he does is right. It's not, but he's not the kind of guy that would, even if he had the money, he wouldn't go to Philippines or Cambodia and to have sex with kids there. Lorne, as I said, acts a bit like a woman. I'm not saying that in a derogative way. Don't say, oh, you're being sexist. Not at all. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to the storyline of sex. I'm going to say it that way. There's nothing wrong with it. To each his own, But Lorne, if you put a naked woman in front of Lorne, I don't think he could have sex with her. I don't think he could get it hard. I could talk long and in detail about erectile dysfunction. Sometimes it's physical, I'm not saying it's always in the mind. But I would say in most cases, and don't quote me on this, I'm not an expert, but in most cases that I studied, especially with young people, it's between the 2 ears, So Lorne would not be able to have an erection with a woman his age, not sober, at least. And in order to achieve an erection with a woman, he would most likely have to think about something else. Probably his nieces. And probably at one time he caught them changing. And that's disgusting. But that's the truth, Sometimes the truth is disgusting. It's a bit like homosexual. I'm not trying to compare homosexual to Lorne, not at all. But I'm saying that homosexual that lead like, I was going to say a normal life, but they live a normal life. They live in a couple with a woman in order to have sex with the woman. First of all, they're not going to be able to have sex with the woman too often. They're not going to be able to do it like twice a day like I do. But in order to maintain the appearances, some kids were taught that homosexuality is wrong and they have to marry and all that and blah, blah, blah. So what they do, they marry to a woman. And in order to have sex with the woman, they're going to have to often they're going to be thinking about something else. They're not going to be thinking about the woman because they're not excited by the woman. And the same applies to Lorne. Lorne is not really excited by women his age, at least not nearly as much as he is by kids. And that's something that most people don't understand. That's something I didn't understand until I explained. And I actually had the luck. I don't know if it's luck, but I was explaining it very clearly when I was studying it because it's very complicated to explain. A pedophile can have sex with a woman his age, but he's going to be thinking about kids while he does it. Because otherwise, he's not going to get an erection or he's going to lose it. Pretty crazy human nature, huh? So Lorne, as I said, he has very, very detailed, specific fantasies about women. And I think the word that really describes, and am I being too promiscuous here? I hope not, but the word that really describes Lorne's sexual fetishes, and it's more than fetishes, it's how he gets excited. The word that describes that is really experiment. I'm not even joking. Like, it's pretty funny to say that, but it's weird. It's true. I mean, that is how Lorne is excited. A young girl discovering her sexuality. Pretty gross, huh? At least I think it's gross. Well, to be excited by that is gross. And he's also excited by the fact that she could discover that with him. And that to me strikes me as very juvenile. That's the kind of stuff you're excited about when you're like 15. Like virginity, for example. If there are any younger listeners, when I was like 18, 19, it was a big deal. I wasn't a virgin, but when I was younger, it's something that you made a lot of jokes about your friends, like, oh yeah, virgin, and the girl is a virgin, blah blah blah. I don't know why. Maybe it's not like that anymore. But for example, when I was in high school and there was a girl, she was like 14 and she had sex and everybody called her a slut and you're not a virgin anymore and blah blah blah. So I think it still applies. Like when you're a kid, virginity is a big deal, but eventually you reach an age where you don't really give a shit. Like it's pretty funny because I'm not that old, and recently I dated a girl that was actually a virgin, never had sex, and I don't know, it didn't excite me as much as I thought it would. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be her first. Didn't really excite me. I don't know why. When I was younger, I was really excited by that. My first girlfriend was a virgin, and I was really excited by it. But anyway, to go back to Lorne, the kind of setup about a young girl discovering, it's almost a juvenile fantasy. If you look at the most common sexual fetishes, and I shouldn't call them fetishes because fetishes is more like a focused topic, but sexual fantasies, most adults are going to be about something like a lesbian, threesome, some domination stuff. That's the kind of common fetishes, or something like impromptu sex, or having sex in public, some place where you can get caught. That's the most common kind of fantasies that adults have. But Lorne doesn't have that kind of fantasies. His fantasies is with kids. That's not something that normal adults have. And if Lorne had any kind of, how can I say, savoir-faire, if he had any kind of, if he was basically normal, he would realize that it's not right, and he would probably, because even if he has that kind of fantasies, he would work, it's not like it's hopeless. It's not like, oh, I have that kind of fantasies, I'm done, like, it's something that can be worked on. I mean, he's always going to be a pedophile, but being a pedophile, I'm going to say it that way, there's nothing wrong with it, Being a child molester, like he tried to do, that's the wrong part, And I think society as a whole, if somebody came out and said, I'm a pedophile, I think we shouldn't, discriminate against that people. We shouldn't, act differently. We shouldn't, ostracize that people. I'm not talking about people with child pornography, that's different. But if somebody went on the public place and said, I'm attracted to prepubescent children, I never, ever made any move towards them, and I'm never going to abuse a kid. If somebody did that, I don't think we should do anything to him. I don't think we should treat him differently. But at the same time, if I had kids and somebody came out as a pedophile, would I let that person babysit my children? Even though that person says, no, I'll never offend, no. I have to be honest, the answer is no. Even if the person came out as a pedophile, I would never let him near my children, or any children, So it's kind of a bizarre situation, and that's one part that we manage well here in Canada. If you go to a doctor and you say that, it remains secret. It's part of your medical file. Nobody knows but your doctor. And there is a chemical castration. There are some behavioral techniques, but those are variable levels of efficiencies. But all this to say, if let's say Lorne is like 35 and he realizes that his fantasies are not okay, because they're not okay. It's not okay to erotize and fantasize about young little girl. And he must know that any normal person must realize it's not a hard deduction to make, Like, it's pretty obvious that it's a little kid and they have a right to live their childhood just like you did. Or even if you didn't have a childhood for various reasons, doesn't give you the right to steal another childhood, So you should realize that it's not right and you should really work on it. And it can be worked on, But Lorne doesn't. And that fantasies, Oh, where was I? I was talking about Lorne. And that fantasies, it's so specific about Lorne. Like, it's specific up to a point where it becomes pervasive. I don't know if that's a word in English. It's one in my language. But eventually, his sexual fantasies in the pornography is going to consume his entire life, up to a point where he bases everything around that fantasy. And that's another striking aspect that I could go on, but I'm going to keep that for a later video. I really want to focus on the fact, when I said earlier that Lorne had the female kind of fantasy. I'm not saying that, again, it's not anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with having, and there's nothing wrong with women having male fantasies. Some women have some very like masculine sexual fantasies. For example, they want to be like, I don't know, they want to initiate sex. Because if you look at the typical North American mating scheme, I should say it like that, it's typically the male that puts pressure on the woman, like, oh, let's have sex, let's have sex, let's have sex, and the woman is supposed to say, no, I don't know you enough, no, and eventually she gives in and they have sex. But some women are not like that. Some women are going to pressure you and they want sex, and that's how it is. They come to the guy and they say, okay, let's have sex, up to a point where sometimes the guy won't feel comfortable because the roles have been reversed. But some women are excited by the fact that they're the one that are going to initiate sex. And there's nothing wrong with that. But Lorne, that's something that you realize when you read the pornography. He is not totally excited by sex itself. And that's a striking aspect of it. I hope I'm not going into too adult topic here. But very rarely does Lorne expresses sexual satisfaction when it comes to sex itself. All the time that he fantasizes to Kayla and details his fantasies, it's about having his hand on her vagina. It's about keeping her naked, like with a leash, I guess. It's about seeing her naked, touching her butt, touching her boob, having her hold his penis. Those are not the act of intercourse. You know, it's more like, how can I say? It's more about not preliminaries, not before sex, but it's more of fantasies. Like, it's weird to say. I don't even know how to say it, actually. It's not about having sex with her. It's about gratification. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Of course, he's gonna say like a taste and all that. You're gonna taste or swallow, and again, he's not focusing on the art of sex, like, oh, we're gonna lay together in bed and we're gonna kiss, and he's really about the gratification aspect. Like, you're gonna do what I'm gonna tell you to do, and he doesn't. That's an aspect that I could spend hours on, but he doesn't actually tell her what to do. He makes her tell what he wants her to do. I hope it makes sense. Basically, for example, let's say that Lawrence wants Kayla to touch his genitals because he's a sick fuck. He's not gonna say, Kayla, you're gonna touch my genital, my penis. He's gonna make her see it. Like, what do you want to touch on me the first? And then she's gonna say, your hand. And he's gonna say, I thought you were gonna say something else. It's a weird kind of manipulation. And where he tries to manipulate her into saying what he wants to hear. Like, how long are you going to keep your clothes on when we're in my apartment? And she says, I don't know. Do you want to get undressed or play with Bud first? And she says, I want to play with Bud first. And she says, okay, you can play with Bud for 5 minutes. And that is pretty weird because it's kind of a deal. Like, it's like a negotiation, but it's kind of a perverse negotiation. It's like let's say I go to Sam and I say, Sam, what should we do first? Are you going to give me $1 million or are we going to talk first? He's going to say, well, we're going to talk first, Nathaniel. Okay, we can talk for 5 minutes, then you can give me $1 million. And then he's going to be like, well, I don't want to give you $1 million. What do you mean you don't want to give me $1 million? We have a deal. That's the kind of deal. That's a deal that Lorne is making, but it's the kind of a deal that you don't want to make. And a normal adult being, like if somebody came to me and says, Nathaniel, want to talk or give me $1 million, I would tell that person to fuck off. But Kayla is a kid. And that's Lorne's way of cementing that his sexual fantasies. Like, he's basically saying, like, come on, Kayla, we had a deal. 5 minutes, the 5 minutes is up. Remove your clothes. And that's so weird. That it's such a depraved fantasy. It's such a recondite fantasy. Like, it's so advanced. It's so developed and elaborate. It's not just a fantasy of I want to see Kayla naked. No, I want to force her to remove her clothes using a weird scheme that I developed where I use my dog as a bargaining chip, and then I can manipulate her into feeling guilty because we had a deal and she has to respect her deal, and then she removes her clothes. That is so advanced! Like, how do you even develop such advanced scenarios? And I think about a few of the things that excites you sexually. I'm not trying to go into adult topics here. I'm not going to sell what excites me. Like, you can be excited, for example, by a naked woman. Like, most people are going to be excited by a naked woman. I would. You can be excited by kissing, making out. But that's not a topic that Lorne explores a lot. He doesn't say, he says, like, a couple of times we're going to make out. But even when he says, like, we're going to have a date, but I might get frisky on our date. It's like, what the fuck? You know, you haven't even had a kiss. And even in the house, when he said, I haven't had a kiss yet, you know it's just to put his hand on her butt. You know he's going to jump into it. He's not really excited by the process leading to sex. Most people would, you know, when they make out with someone of the opposite gender that is physically attractive to them, they're going to be attracted by that. They're going to feel some sexual excitation. But I don't think Lorne would. Again, he's the one that asked for a kiss, and he's kind of coercing her into it, you know. I want a kiss first. And if you watch the notes, well, not the note, but the comments by Casey Monroe in the afterward, she says that Lorne act like, come on, give me a kiss. That's why I came here. So even in the house when he was with her, he was kind of using his demeanor and posture to manipulate her into kissing him. And that's not how most people get sexual excitation. But if you think about things that would really excite me, like I'm trying to think of something that I could like reveal. I don't want to cause a scandal. Like, I'm very tame by comparison, but I would be excited by... I don't want to go into too much advance. What would get me really excited? I would say a woman that does something for me. That would be exciting. Those are pretty normal that most normal people have. I don't go into weird scenarios like, well, I want my girlfriend to write a novel and then she's going to sign with the main character that is going to be me, and then she's going to read the character, and every chapter she's going to remove a cloth, and then I'm going to cut a deal and we're going to play Monopoly, and then I'm going to beat her at Monopoly, and then, you know, I don't go into that. But if you study the scenarios that Lorne elaborates to rape her, it's scary. But it's scary in a good and in a bad way. It's scary because he's a rapist, but in a good way, meaning, how do you come up with those ideas? Like, for example, he has an example towards like the end. He goes about, for example, he says about the bath. He says, I just tested it in the bath. We're going to fit in perfectly, but my hand will have to be on your butt and you have to hold onto my penis a lot. That is so weird. How do you come up with that stuff? And he's excited by that. And I can just figure out Lorne saying, okay, I need to do some practice, you know. Kayla's going to be here soon. I'm going to test if my bath can fit both of us. Or in the truck. When he goes in the truck and he's like, we have to wait until we're a couple of blocks away. And then you're not going to wear any skirt, and you're going to have a pair of panty in your bag. It has to be white panty. And then you're going to be sucking when I dry. He goes into that weird developed scenario. And that's something that you can maybe have normal with a woman your age, first of all. But at least after you met. And typically after you have sex a couple of times, like, this is so developed. Like, the first time you have sex with someone, that's not how it happened. You don't go into that weird stuff of, bring some panties with you. It's fucking perverted, by the way. Forget, even if Kayla was like 35 too. Imagine if Kayla was 35 and Lorne meets her online. Like, there's nothing wrong with what he said. If he said that to an adult, of course it's a bit perverted, but that's a private life. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. If it was a woman his age. But imagine that kind of woman. There's a guy you never met, and he says, I'm going to come with my truck, bring a pair of your panties in a bag. I don't know. It's someone that you never met. Why don't we meet for a coffee first somewhere? Like, I don't know. It goes into those weird diva fantasies. Like, and that's one of the reasons Lorne is so fascinating and why the pornography is so great. Like, Lorne, why don't you just have normal sex with her? I mean, that's not enough for you. And he has to go into some weird stuff about you experiment and put your finger deeper. And then he goes into, like, we're going to take pictures of us naked and I'm going to take a photo. He goes far. He goes very far in his sexual fantasy. I would think further than most predators on the show. Like, you may compare him, for example, to Michael Warwicker, Can I Rape You Anally? That guy had some sick fantasies, but they're actually more common. They're actually more common, not more common. They're not really common to suck on blood, but he fantasized a lot about anal. But they're more simple. They're simpler fantasies. He doesn't go into stuff like, I'm gonna bring my dog, and you can play with my dog for 5 minutes, and then you have to dress up as a vampire, and he's very simple. It's very like it's perverted, but not in the same way as Lorne. Lorne could basically write like some debauch book with some weird stuff, sexual fantasies, and I don't know where I saw. Like, I don't think I've ever read a book with fantasies as complicated and elaborate as Lorne. And that's a girl he never met. And he has a fantasies, like he started naming his daughters, like, oh, we're gonna have kids, your dad cannot be in the room. Like, he's already planning childbirth. Lorne, you never even met her, and now you're already planning what your first kid is gonna be named with a girl you never met. But Lorne is excited by that. He's a dreamer. Lorne is a dreamer. That's pretty obvious. He dreams all the time. He's going to be in country music and all that. But he's not much an achiever. He doesn't achieve much. Like, what does Lorne do? What did Lorne do in his life? Like, he doesn't even have enough money to put gas in his truck. Like, I'm going to put $20 of gas in my truck. And he talks about it like it's some big deal. Like, oh, God, I have to put $20 of gas in my truck. That's so much money. And that's his way, by the way, of making sure that Kayla is going to be submissive. Like, Kayla, I just put $20 of worth of gas in my car, so you got to come now. That's his way of really sealing the deal, with a kid. Fucking pervert. I want to talk about why Lorne could not have sex with a woman his age. That's something that I and Tix disagree on, and that's fine. That's fine. Tix disagree that if he had a girl his age, he could have sex normally, probably, but it wouldn't be very satisfying to him. It's like a one night stand. It's not really satisfying. That's something that I realized like late in my life. Like when I was young, it was so cool. You go to a bar, you meet a girl, you have sex with her. Oh, that's so cool. Then you realize like it's a bit hollow, Like when you wake up, if you are young, I don't want to corrupt you, but when you wake up the next day and you have a hangover and you have a girl in your bed, you're like, oh, it's pleasant on the moment, but it's not very satisfying on the long term. It's not. There's nothing like. It's just. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not as satisfying as a woman you love. Sorry if I'm a bit romantic. So about Lorne, if he had sex with a woman his age, it would not be satisfying to him, not nearly as much as having sex with Kayla. And again, it's fascinating how in the Lornography, when he discusses his sexual fantasies with her, it's always like, I'm going to do the experimenting for you. It's rarely about having sex with her, very rarely. A couple of times he goes into that, but most of the time it's about, I'm going to keep you naked, I'm going to touch your vagina all the time. It's really about the gratification aspect of it. And of course, there's zero like development. It's not about we're going to explore what we like each other. We're going to try some stuff, It's not about, we're going to kiss and see what we like and go from there. No. That's not what excites Lorne. He's really excited by the gratification aspect. Like the fact that he's going to have a young girl that he can molest at will, and the power that he's gonna have over the kid is really what Lorne wants, and that's gross. I started this video by saying that Lorne might be the worst pedophile, the worst human being on earth. I would say, and I said in one of my earlier video, that Lorne is the most evil predator of all, the most evil person on earth. Maybe not. I'm going to be honest. There are some people that, again, we go back to the means opportunity, definitely did worse than him. One day I'll make a show explaining what I mean by that. But I would say that if Lorne had the means and the opportunity, he would probably be he would be the top worst people on earth. The stuff that Lorne could do, when you have such elaborate and purely evil fantasies, there's no limit to how far Lorne can go. He can kill Kayla. You don't know that. Of course, he doesn't talk about it in the chat because he knows that Kayla is going to freak out. He knows how to groom her. But let's say that Lorne was a multi-billionaire and let's say he's not in the US because those damn laws protecting children, right? Let's say he was in the US and he was not in the US. I saw a movie like in another country. Let's say he was like in a small third world country and he was rich and he had like billions of dollars and he had like his whole he has like 6 towns like to him. You don't know what he could do. Like he could get 20 kids and he could like torture them. You might say no. Lorne is a pussy. You're right, but he was grown accustomed to being a pussy. If he had grown with a bit more power, Lorne could have turned into a serial killer. There's no limit. There doesn't seem to be a limit to his level of perversion, and that's the aspect of the pornography that is a bit more frightening. I mean, it's already frightening that he wants to rape Kayla, but the things he could have done just to Kayla, the things he could have done. Now you might say, no, he loved Kayla. No, he didn't. He didn't love her. I think I showed that when I showed that he hit on 3 other decoys, and who knows how many more kids. He's a compulsive, pathological, psychopath liar. He never loved her. She's a mean for him to get sexual satisfaction and gratification. And who knows? Because one thing with guys like him, there's an escalation. And I really want to talk about the escalation one day. Is if you read the pornography, is fantasies escalate. It starts being basically it's not right to feel like that. I would do experimenting on you, blah blah blah. At the end, the very end, he goes, "Are you anxious to touch my penis?" There's not even a hint of hesitation in his voice. He's not like, "Are you anxious to touch my penis, Kayla?" And I was like, "Are you anxious to touch my penis?" And now he's very dominant. There's an escalation, and his fantasies get worse and worse and worse and worse. And at the end, it's freaking disgusting what he wants to do. It's still a bit comical. He managed to relieve the tension. But if you remove all the LOL and all the varia topic and you keep only the fantasies about spanking her, like, oh, you didn't call me like I did, I'm going to spank you. And if she refused to do something, who knows what he's going to do. It's really frightening. Who knows how far he might have gone with Kayla. Might have killed her. You don't know. You don't know. Maybe, let's say Kayla is like, they have a 1-year relationship together, and now he has sex with her many, many times, and she goes like, oh, I'm going to go back with Derek. You don't know how Lorne might react to that. You don't know. He might get so jealous that he ends her life. And that's the frightening aspect of it. Lorne's fantasies, they grow. I think he had them at the beginning, but he knew better than to share them because he knew that if he shared his fantasy on the first chat, the girl would immediately dump him. So he keeps them for later on. And now he grooms her little by little, and he takes more and more space, and he goes passive-aggressive, like, I guess talking with someone else was more important today. If you talk to Derek, you're going to lose me. And he grows, and the more he grows, like the more that they talk and he grooms her, the more he goes into depraved stuff. And I'm going to get condoms so I don't get you pregnant. He talks of her like a vulgar animal. And it's frightening to study with a guy like that has no boundaries to his sexual fantasies. Lorne does not have a sense of morality. None whatsoever. A little bit when it comes to stealing. I covered that. Like, he knows stealing is wrong. Like I said, he could have stolen the condoms. He doesn't. So he knows stealing is wrong, but that's probably not even because of morality. He might actually not steal because he's afraid to get caught. But then again, he's not afraid to get caught with Kayla. But then he's a little bit afraid to get caught with Kayla. Actually, you delete your archives, the IP address, blah, blah, blah. But Lorne doesn't see right and wrong. He doesn't even realize how evil, even to this day, he doesn't realize how evil he is and how evil he is, basically. He basically doesn't say it wasn't right for me to do that with Kayla. And that's the most scary aspect of pornography. And that's one of the reasons, Lorne, I think he's the worst. And I did study a few cases, serial killers and all that. I'm not saying that Lorne did the worst. Not at all. There are plenty of people worse than Lorne. But in terms of who he is, and given the means and opportunities, I think Lorne is one of the most disgusting person on earth. and maybe one of the most evil who ever lived. And I'm going to comment that later. Not evil meaning what he did, but meaning who he is. His values, his personality, the way he thinks. There's no limits to what he can do. And he actually seems to be able to do it. Like, I would say Lorne is not as graphic. Like, he doesn't go about, I'm going to torture you, I'm going to drink your blood. But the psychological manipulation that he does is absolutely disgusting. And the fact that he is sexually stimulated and sexually excited by his evil bullshit with Kayla, his evil manipulation, and he's excited by that, that shows that Lorne is probably, in my opinion, one of the worst human beings who ever lived. And that's one of the reasons I hate more and more. It's not just about raping the kid. It's about destroying her. Utterly and completely destroy her. And not once in the pornography does he show any qualms or any kind of hesitation or any kind of remorse. And not even after, 8 years after, he has zero remorse for what he did. Zero. And he doesn't admit anything. He didn't do anything wrong. He's a fucking disgusting piece of shit. A liar, a psychopath. And again, the psychological games he plays with Kayla. If Kayla was real, he would have completely destroyed her. Forever. And who knows how many more kids he did that shit to. Or many more kids he would have done that shit to if Kayla was real and he had raped her. That's what I think, that Lorne Armstrong is the worst predator ever. Now you might say, no, there are some predators who rape dozens and dozens of kids. You're right. But the psychological games that he is, and how disgusting and evil he is, the person that he is, not by what he did. He didn't do nearly as much as some of the most famous predators and all that. But the person he represents, I think he's the worst person who ever lived, or one of the worst. At least one of the worst that we know of. So thanks for watching. I did 41 minutes. I think we pretty much explored who he is. And the fact that he plays like that, if Lorne was honest and actually went and said, like, yes, I'm evil, fuck you, I would have a bit more respect for him. But how he plays the victim and he cries like bullshit tears, like, I'm a victim, that makes me hate him 1,000 times more. And that's why I hate Lorne. Like, it's crazy how much I hate this fucker. It's absolutely insane. But it doesn't really ruin my life. I still live my life, but fuck you, Lorne Armstrong. Seriously. Nathaniel Trevor.